As you know, we're working hard on reconciliation. I suspect we're going to have a bill before us here in a few days. It's very important. It does a lot. And I know reasonable people have disagreed over it. But first and foremost, if we pass the bill, it will represent the largest tax increase in the history of our country. Let me say that again, because sometimes we tend to lose sight of the main purpose of the bill, of the forest, as we start battling about the trees. If we pass this bill, it will be the largest tax cut in the history of America. But the converse is also true. If we don't pass this bill, it will be the largest tax increase on the American people in the history of America. So there are two doors here. Door number one, pass it, largest tax cut in the history of America. Door number two, don't pass it, largest tax increase, $4.3 trillion. That's how much taxes will go up on ordinary Americans, not just the rich. I know they're going to tell you that. It's just the rich. No, it's not. It's ordinary Americans. It's every American. If we don't pass this bill, you raise taxes $4.3 trillion on 300 plus million Americans, and you watch this economy go down like a fat guy on a seesaw. We don't have a choice. But as we're discussing reconciliation, there's another issue that I don't want us to forget about. Put up that first chart for me. Reconciliation is about cutting and spending, but what we call rescission is about cutting. As you know, Mr. President, the United States Congress is responsible under our Constitution for passing a budget. And when we pass a budget and send it to the president, any president, the president can either veto it or sign it. What he can't do, or she can't do, is go through it and say, I like this, I want to keep it, I don't like that, I'm going to cut it. That's called a line item veto. President Clinton tried it, and the United States Supreme Court said, can't do it. So the president, once we pass a budget, has to swallow it whole or has to spit it out. But one of the tools that the president does have, the executive branch has, every president has, is the power of rescission. You're going to hear that word a lot, rescission. What does rescission mean? It just means the president looks at the budget and he says, you know I can't change it on my own unilaterally. But I, the president, can ask Congress to change it. I know you just passed this budget, but I think you made a mistake here. I think you shouldn't have spent this money. Or I think you spent too much money and we've got to cut back. So the president can send us what's called a rescission bill. And we've got to take it up. We don't have a choice. And in that rescission bill, the president says just what I just implied. I don't agree with this spending, and I want you, Congress, who put it in there, to take it out. We can't afford it. Or it's wasteful spending, what I call spending porn. And we have to take up the president's request, and we can vote yes or we can vote no, but we cannot dodge it. And it only takes a majority vote to pass the president's request. The president has sent to us a rescission package. It's $9.4 billion, as you know, Mr. President. $9.4 billion. The president is asking us to remove spending that Congress appropriated for areas in foreign aid and for public broadcasting. I want to talk about the foreign aid part. We're going to have plenty of time to debate whether we ought to agree with the president. But I want the American people to understand the type of spending porn that President Trump is asking to take out of Congress's budget. The Honorable Jody Arrington, who is a congressman, damn good one too. He's chairman of the House Budget Committee. The congressman put together just a few items in the foreign aid spending provisions that the president's asking us to remove. This list is illustrative. It's not exhaustive. And I just wanted to point a couple of these programs out. Again, this is spending the president is asking us to revoke. You be the judge, folks. It's your money. American people can decide whether we ought to spend their money on this or take it out as the president has requested. I'll just mention a couple of the programs. Congress appropriated $4 million for sedentary migrants in Colombia. The president wants us to take it out. Congress appropriated, and let me say, in many of these cases, we didn't appropriate the money for the specific things it was spent on. The bureaucrats did that. We might have sent the executive branch, let's say, $3 million for foreign aid, and the executive branch, the bureaucrats there decided, under President Biden, decided how the money would be spent. So I know Congress is not blameless, believe me, but we did not approve these specific items of expenditures. We approved the amounts and the general subject area like foreign aid. The bureaucrats did the rest. The bureaucrats decided to spend $3 million for circumcision, vasectomies, and condoms in Zambia. You decide whether that's a priority. $3 million for sexual reproductive health in Venezuela. $2.5 million for teaching young children how to make environmentally friendly reproductive health decisions. I didn't know there was any such thing as an environmentally unfriendly reproductive health decision. $167,000 the bureaucracy has spent or is proposing to spend on free education and health care to migrants in Ecuador and Venezuela. $67,000 to provide insect powder to children in Madagascar. Mr. President, have you ever had insect powder? Don't answer that. I don't think I'm even supposed to be asking you under the Senate rules, but I haven't had it. In the area of LGBTQIA and gender programs. And again, you be the judge, whether this is something we ought to be spending your money on when we've got $36 trillion of debt. LGBTQIA stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and asexual. The one I had to look up was intersex. Apparently, intersex is when someone identifies as both a man and a woman. The bureaucracy wants to spend $5.1 million to strengthen the, quote, resilience of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and queer global movements. The president has asked us to take it out. $833,000 for services for, quote, transgender people, sex workers and their clients, and sexual networks in Nepal. $643,000 for LGBTQIA programs in the Western Balkans. $567,000 for LGBTQI programs in Uganda. $33,000 for being LGBTI in the Caribbean. In the area of the climate, Mr. President, the bureaucrats want to spend, and President Trump wants us to take it out, $6 million appropriated for net zero cities in Mexico. $2.1 million for climate resilience in Southeast Asia, Latin America, and East Africa. $614,700 for climate adaptation, including growing coral reefs in the Caribbean. $500,000 to Rwanda to buy electric buses. Your money. $8,000 to promote vegan food in Zambia. In terms of electoral assistance, the bureaucracy has some ideas about how we ought to spend the money appropriated to the executive branch to help people in their elections. The bureaucracy wants to spend $1 million on voter ID programs in Haiti. If you know anything about Haiti, it's a mess. They're not about to have elections anytime soon. $889,000 for electoral reforms and voter education in Kenya. In the area of media, arts, and culture, the bureaucracy proposes to spend $6 million to support media organizations and civic life in Palestine, and $3 million for Iraqi Sesame Street. This is just a taste, Mr. President. This list is illustrative. It's not exhaustive. So when you see us debating whether we should reduce the federal budget by $9.3 billion, which the House has already decided to do, and now it's our turn, and I say which I have repeatedly said and will continue to say, is that all the president is asking us to do is cut the spending porn from the budget. You can make up your own mind. It's your money. If you think we ought to be spending the money on this, encourage us to vote no. But if you think you could spend this money of yours better than the bureaucracy could, or we could spend it on our kids or our roads or our health care, then encourage us to vote yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I see my colleague, Senator Warren, is here, so I will yield the floor.